Welcome to the Spectrum Connection, a podcast hosted by Jess
and Alyce. As two mums of neurodivergent kids, we are here to share our experiences, insights, and advice with other parents navigating this unique journey.
Join us as we discuss everything from daily challenges to breakthrough moments, all with a focus on understanding and celebrating neurodivergence. Today, we are going to be talking about default parenting. This is a risky one.
It is a bit, isn't it? Yeah, I was thinking about how am I going to address certain things without, anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's a sensitive one. Like it's one that there is a lot of sensitive topics surrounding it, but it's important to talk about. So we're here to talk about them.
Yeah, that's right.
Controversy. We're going to shout out Felicia B Music. She said, another great episode. So many light bulb moments for me. I admit I am guilty of being too hard on myself and my child, expecting to have the typical family life when all attempts only prove that that does not work for us. Yeah, very true. Thank you, Felicia, for commenting on our stuff.
I'm glad it helps. It has that impact. Yeah, that's what we're doing this for, isn't it? So it's nice to hear those comments.
Yeah. It's interesting talking about these types of comments, these topics, sorry, because they can be quite controversial. People have different opinions, and obviously people don't have to take on our opinions. We're just talking as ourselves and what we think is
our own experiences. Everyone's experiences are different family life, different everything. So just take what applies and leave what doesn't, really. That's all you can do with anything that's out there. You just
exactly. With that, go grab a coffee, go grab a tea, do something during this time for yourself. Take some time for self-care or schedule it in. Make sure you do something for yourself.
Just think about it today. Think about what is one thing that I can do today or tomorrow or whatever it is. Just one small thing. Doesn't have to be much. Just constantly thinking about it, because I don't think it doesn't just naturally happen. It's you got to put effort into it.
I think we're always waiting for this special time to happen, but it's never going to happen. We have to make it happen. So this is us telling you to do it. So we're going to be talking about default parenting. And I think specifically we're talking about being default parents of neurodivergent kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's don't like to generalize, but I think default parenting generally falls on mums. I think it's majority. It's just how it's been for however many years. And I mean, I think because we give birth to them and then it's natural that we stay home with them for the first, however long you can have off work for or whatever. And then it just continues.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about because I think just in general, parents talk about the default parents and the challenges that come with it. Also, there's good things about it too, but the challenges that come through it are even greater when it comes to having kids who need therapy appointments, who need supports, who need all these different, they've got more needs. So we have to have more on our to-do list to think about. And I just think that there's more to it for us. But that's a huge generalization, and I hope that doesn't come across the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because, in general, parents have different things that happen in their lives that could, bring up the level of responsibilities that they have. But we're just talking specifically about our kids and how our families run. But I think, I think you're right. I think more mums are the default parents. And I think it's okay to say that because it's probably statistical. And doesn't
I think too, in our circumstance, if we think back to, carers can't work and then someone needs to work for the family, if you're in a partnership, and statistically men earn more than women. So kind of makes sense for the men to work because they bring in the most income when you've only got, one income or whatever it is. So I think that's just the way it falls for us, unfortunately, this society that we're still in. But it's hard being a default parent. And
Yeah.
it affects relationships, I think, to like the resentment for being the default parent, even though it's just the way it is. Sometimes there's no one's doing anything wrong or meaning it to be that way. It just the way it works.
Yeah, and I think back to like early days, I think I felt a lot of resentment because I wasn't like we had so much going on in our lives. We just found out our child was autistic. We had all of these therapies coming on board. I was overwhelmed. And at the same time, I had to do everything whilst my husband was at work. And so I think that resentment is valid. Obviously, we shouldn't all be like resenting our husbands in that sentence, but I think it's valid to feel that way when there's just so much going on and you're responsible for it. If you don't do it, no one will, and that's scary.
And
And
draining. Like that's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, get up of a morning. My husband's already at work because he gets up really early. And it's just me at home. And I'm on from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I go to sleep because kids don't sleep. And so there's always someone needing something, like,
yeah.
especially when you have a large family like mine, there's four kids. Like,
Mm.
it literally some days it's like one kid comes up to me and I do something, and then the next kid comes up and I need to do something for them, and then the next one. And sometimes I, get overwhelmed and I feel bad and I always apologize, but I might have, say, one child I haven't seen for an hour or so because he's off doing his own thing, and then he'll come and ask me something and I'll be like what, and it's not, and they're just like, huh, like I've just seen you, what's going on? And I always apologize, but it's just the frustration that you get when you just want like 5 minutes just to
Yeah.
sit or do something for yourself or not have to think about someone else.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
The multiple needs of multiple members of a family, it's just a lot. And I think especially when, like, say, for example, on the weekend, you go and do something and your husband takes over or your partner takes over, there's still this default parenting that happens where you have to organize so that everyone is regulated, everyone is okay when you leave, everyone's got something to do, or everyone's fed. So even when you do have time off, you're still having to make up for it to
Yeah.
in order to have that time off.
Questions because the non-default parent doesn't know because they don't have the same amount of time. Like, my husband's not home a great deal, he's always at work, so he doesn't know a lot of what's going on, and that's not his fault, it's just he isn't here.
Yeah.
Like, he would like to know, but he's just not here. So then when he's doing something, he's having to ask me the details to make sure he gets it right, and then that's like me, that's the mental load. I'm thinking, if I'm thinking about it, I might as well just do it. And then you get into that trap, well, I might as well just do it. And so then you do it. And then
Yeah.
like that help, you know what I mean? Like, it pushes them out a bit more because they're like, well, obviously I don't know how to do it right. So I'm going to go not help, like not try. I don't think it's a conscious effort to not try. It just happens over time
Yeah. And
when
I
that,
think when our kids really like routine and stuff to stay the same, I think it's easy for us to be like, oh, I'll just do it so that it stays that way, so that there's no repercussions, there's no dysregulation or frustration
yeah,
or meltdowns happening because of the change in plans. And I just think in general, I think it's easier. I have a great husband who helps incredibly much when he can. But for example, for sleep, Jacob won't sleep with Jordan. He does do it one night a week, but it's still hard because Jacob just wants me. He wants the default
yeah.
parent.
That's
And
what I was going to say. The same with the routine. It's not
yeah,
just the way they like things, but if you're the one doing it for majority of the time, they don't want someone else to do it because what happens if they do it wrong, or
yeah.
that's not routine. Dad doesn't normally do that for me. Mum does. So mum, we want you to do it.
Yeah, and I think that goes the same when you have other people watch your child as well. I feel like it's just easier for me to do it because I'm like thinking, what if they do this differently? Or what if they do that differently? And they don't know that those things have repercussions. They don't know that changing their routine slightly might lead to a meltdown. Something that Jacob does is he won't ever have like meltdowns with, well, not often. He won't have those types of feelings with other people. But later on, when he comes back to us, default, safe people, it will release all those feelings. And that's what people don't see. And so then they're like, well, it's fine if he does this, or it's fine if this is a bit different today. And I'm like, no, it's not fine. I know
And
it's
even,
fine.
even when I think like my parents, like I just need to ask really, sometimes I don't even need to ask, they ask to have the kids. Like I'm really grateful and lucky in that respect that, and they, quite understanding and speak to them all the time and, kind of in each other's houses. We're with each other all the time. They know all their little quirks and how they like to have things, and they will do them in their house, but we still experience that when they come home because when they're away from their environment, it's still different. And
Yeah.
so they go there a lot. Like they might go there for a couple of days at a time or whatever, but I still have that with the kids where they come home from being out there and they're just like, yeah, as soon as I walk through that door, it's gone. Like, and
Yeah.
my mum will often say, like, she'll still be there. Like, as soon as they come through the door, it's just they've been perfect, like they've been regulated and happy, and then they walk through the door and I just cop all of it. Like,
Yeah.
and nothing has happened out of the ordinary apart from them just leaving the house and being away for a day or two or a night or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the way it is.
That like understanding of that as well is was a big like conflict is like when I used to, well, when I still do pick up like my kids from school, the emotions will release and it's like, why are they upset with you all the time? And I'll be like, I'll know the reason, but it's almost like that misunderstanding there. And I have to like really step back and realize that when we're coming through this journey of acceptance, of learning, of knowing about like a neurodivergent life, when we're coming to that, we have had how many hours of that with our kids? We've learned them back to front. We know them. And when we think about it, like for example, our partners, they go out to work, they have all this time away. So they have way less hours of learning, of understanding, of all those things. And so I have to really step back and go, hold on, they're sitting at this level of understanding that they have been able to have only but like in the times that they have been able to do it. So I have to really reflect on that and be like, okay, there's a misunderstanding. It's okay. But really just being knowledgeable about the fact that they don't know as much as I do because I'm here. I am in the therapy appointments. I am in all of the things. And I have to sort of like check myself on that sometimes. They're trying the best that they can with what they have. And
Yeah.
that's not to say that sometimes like they could, he could do better in some certain situations. I think we all kind of experienced that, but definitely understanding that processing time is different for them and us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to check myself too. Like I get really frustrated sometimes in certain stages where like, I'm at home, I'm doing all the homeschooling, the therapy appointments, the running around, that staying up late because my husband works late, big hours, travels, and I have to stay up every night with the kids because he's got to get up early in the next morning and I'm a bit more flexible, so it makes sense that I'm up with them. But sometimes I feel that like I don't know if resentment's the right word to use, but it's like frustration that why am I the only one doing this?
Yeah.
I know why. I know why, and it makes sense. But I'm
Mm.
like, why me? Why do I have to? Or like, you can just get up and go somewhere, but I can't just get up and go. I have to organize it first. I have to.
Yeah.
Same with work. Like, I can't just get up and go to work. I have to organize the kids. I think back last year when I did my first workshop. It was organized like my parents have my kids when I go away for work. And that works because the kids are used to being there and it's not a change for them as such. Whereas when they're at home, say for instance with my husband, that doesn't normally happen because he's at work. So
Yeah.
that can throw them. So the first workshop I ever did, I had plans for my parents to take them, but my mum got called in for surgery that she'd been waiting on a list for. And I was like, you need that surgery, so you go. And it was my very first workshop where my training was going to be. So I had to attend. I didn't want to say no. So my husband said, okay, I'll take the couple of days off work and I'll have the kids. And I was like, are you sure? Never had all kids together, like all four kids together at once. And he was like, yep, I've got this. And I'm thinking, I wrote a list, there was pediatrician appointments that needed to happen. There was speech appointments and I had to organize. And he's like saying to me, it's fine. We'll be fine. Don't stress. Like, I'll keep them alive type thing. And I shouldn't laugh, but it's quite comical. for me. I was at the workshop and my phone was like ringing and I could see it was him and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to take this. So what had happened was he was taking my son to speech and I told him, you need transition time. You're gonna have to pick him up from daycare earlier to give
Mhm.
him the transition time before he goes to speech. Otherwise, it won't work very well. So he picked him up all excited and thought, I'll give him enough time and I'll go by a local cafe that you go through the drive-through, and thought he was doing the right thing, treating him to a treat. And he grabbed a cookie because he knows that I go there after OT with Elijah to get a cookie. And he just ordered a choc chip cookie, didn't think to ask. And my son couldn't communicate which one he wanted. He only has a specific cookie from a specific local business. And
Yes.
so in the drive-through, he's having a meltdown and
Oh no.
eating it. And my husband's like, what cookie is it that he has? And I'm like, the creative cookies. He's always gone back around to get the cookie to down place before he could get into speech. And I was like, I had like, it wasn't funny, but it was. I'm just like all them little things that I just naturally do that I don't even think about telling someone. Like I said, you need transition time, but I didn't think to say, hey, if you're going to go here, it's like the only drive-through cafe we have apart from Takeaway.
Mm.
Like this is the cookie that he has from there. Like I didn't think about that because I just naturally do that. So
Yeah.
those messages, yeah, and that
Little
like
things.
that it worked out, but it could have been a disaster because of stuff.
But that would have like impacted him, even still, he went around and got the cookie again, but still, like he still had those emotions before going to therapy. And yeah,
Yeah. And I normally
just a
do,
little.
like I normally do cookie after OT. Fortnightly OT, we go by the cafe, we get a cookie, we come home. Cookies aren't involved in speech. And I
Oh,
specifically didn't involve them in speech because I didn't want that to become a thing, because getting a $5 cookie after OT
yeah.
every fortnight is like, because I've got 4 kids, I've got to buy everyone a $5 cookie. And it's just like,
Mm.
that's an expensive exercise. So I didn't want to put my foot in that one. Lucky
It's
that didn't.
It's funny when you talk about like the phone call when you're away. I went to Adelaide recently and I was like, just like try not to like call me. I want you to like figure it out. But there's obviously moments where you have to, otherwise your kid's gonna have really hard feelings. And so there was a lot of messages going back and forth. This wasn't calling, but it was messaging a lot. But which is fine. I don't mind it just because I know that it would have a huge impact on the way that the day went.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when you think about it, how big of an impact we have on their lives and their routines, and they're just supporting them in every day. We did have a few questions, experiences come through, so I might head on into them. Someone said, me, hi, I do it all. My son now only lets me do anything for him. I am his person. Yeah. And it's interesting how that would be for single parents. I wouldn't understand it in like at all, but it'd be interesting how that dynamic works for single parents as well. Someone else said, I've just embraced being the favorite parent because what else am I meant to do? It's true.
Yeah, I think that is the thing too, is reframing it.
Mm,
Like when I get frustrated, resentful, my husband, I like have to just take that step back and reframe it and be like, I'm in this position because he does work a lot, like
yeah.
not in a negative way. Like I'm here, I'm able to provide for the kids, give
Mm,
them the support that they need, do the homeschooling and all that stuff because he works so
mm,
hard. So even though I'm like, I would love to change roles some days.
yeah.
Yeah, just trying to
It's interesting
that
because
great.
I think back to like early days when I was super stressed and it used to be like this constant like, well, I'm tired and I'm more tired and you have that
Yes.
types of fights and like I do this and you do that. And I think now that it's like time has moved on a little bit more, I think we're both a bit more receptive to just understanding that we both have different roles and different things that we do and no one is doing more than the other. No one's more tired than the other. It's just, you just have different roles
Different.
and those roles change depending on what family you're in. And that might be different to the next family. Like my roles might be different to yours in your family. And so I think it is also that comparison to social media again, coming back in and
Yeah.
just when you watch other people online, you're like, oh, well, they do that. well, he does that. He comes home and he does that.
I read them comments too of like some mums are on there like, oh, I wouldn't stay with him if he did that. Like my partner needs to help out more, and I wouldn't stand for that type of thing. And when I think about it, like I do everything in this house. I do all the housework, the washing, the everything, because my husband's like works 12-hour days. He's got 4 hours travel either side. And when he's home, he hasn't seen the kids for so long that I want the kids to have some time with him. So
Yeah.
like, and he's exhausted anyway. So like, he walks through the door at like 7 o'clock at night and I'll say, here's the dishes. I just done dinner. Here you go. They're all there for you. Like, imagine how that would be received. And it's like, no, 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 don't sit with the kids. Don't sit and talk to them about the day. No, I want you to go and do the dishes or I'm leaving you. That's what
Yeah.
these comments are. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't work for everybody. If you're both home the same amount of time and all that, sure.
Mm.
But it's not like that for every family. And
Yeah.
the same as weekends. Like he has the one sometimes if we're lucky 2 days, but we have outside stuff to do that I can't do. And so I need him out there to do that. And so
Yeah.
then I can't have his inside. And so as much as I can be frustrated and wish he'd just take over something, it's not going to happen in this season.
Yeah, exactly. A season of life.
Yeah.
Someone else said we are exhausted as a default parent. Yeah, it is exhausting. Someone else said it's split. I do the admin, therapies, etc., and my husband takes him out, adventures, parks, fun. And that's a little bit like what you just said. I think I feel like they don't have as much time with our kids. So when they do have that time, we want them to connect. We want them to do the things. We get
I
that time.
must admit though, sometimes I get a bit frustrated when I'm like, for instance, on the weekend, my husband I only had 2 kids home, but he took them out to give me a break, but also I wanted to deep clean the house because I haven't been done for a long. So he took them out of the house for me to do that. And halfway through, I'm kind of like, they're out having a fun time, like shopping, and I'm here scrubbing the toilet. Like I want that fun time too, like
Yeah. It's about that balance, isn't it? I feel like
yeah,
sometimes we do that a lot, and I think a lot of families do this is where they switch out roles, especially like on the weekend, especially with the level of needs our kids have. At home, Jordan will be on the kids, or I'll be cleaning, or I will be on the kids and he'll be cleaning or cooking or whatever. He's a good cook, so he does the cooking. So I look at it like that. I also look at it at the time that he has with the kids, and he needs to have that boosted up because he doesn't have as much time. And then I look at
yeah,
like, yeah, like you have to reframe the way that you think about it. And it's so hard to do that because you can get resentful sometimes. I think,
especially when you're tired and
especially,
exhausted and you're in the thick of
yeah,
big feelings that all directed towards you and you're
yeah,
like that's what I struggle with too. I've copped it all day and then dad comes home and it's like, Dad,
yeah,
everyone's so happy, we love dad. And I'm like, yeah. And then he reminds them, like your mom does everything for you. Like, yeah. But
that he
yeah,
does that.
it's a hard balance.
Someone else said, it's hard, resentment can creep in. Self care seems impossible. Yeah. Even when we do get self care, it's like, it has to be meticulously planned and everyone has to
And
be, yeah, we have to almost do double beforehand so that we can have that time.
yeah, or you're thinking about the stuff that you could be doing instead, or
Yeah.
or like just like, oh, I didn't send that email, or I didn't make that phone call, or
Mm,
I must send that this week and stuff. So it's that mental load that just keeps running through your mind, even when you're trying to switch off.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to switch that off. I really do try, but it never works. I mean, with my thing with the gym, I think I mostly like it because I can put music in my ears and blast the music so that I can't even think. I just need those
yeah,
thoughts to be gone, or I'm not going to have a good restful time. I say rest. I mean like
yeah,
time away. I don't know how to explain that.
yeah,
Someone else says this is huge for me, especially right now after A's seizures, GP appointments, calling school, filling in forms for transport. It's all on me. The mental load has been huge this week. Such a ripple effect. Therapists, specialists. Yeah, that's a lot. And when you have medical needs as well, that's even more.
yeah. That's a
That
whole other thing, isn't it?
was all of our, well, someone else said we share the load only because of shift work. So they obviously work the same, share the load. Yeah, it's different for every family. And I think it's important not to compare yourself as long
Yeah.
as, everyone is kind of getting their needs met.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that comes down to communication too, doesn't it? Like
mhm.
communication's a big one. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm autistic, so communication's not exactly my strong point, but um
I was going
yeah,
to say we
it's a
struggle
hard
with
one.
that too.
Yeah, and it's taken a lot of years to get, like, we're in a pretty good position now, I think.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but it's taken a while.
Finding your groove as a family, I
Yeah.
feel like it's important, but I feel like it's hard to get there, and you have to get through a lot of hard moments to get to the point of things running okay. And I think a lot of people strive for this perfection, and there's like no perfect family. You're not going to get to this perfect level of self-care or perfect level of everyone getting their needs met. As I said, my kids are screaming when I leave the house to go to the gym, but I know that I need that for myself in order for the family to function. So everyone kind of has to sacrifice a little bit. It took me a long time to figure that out as well. Is I used to just not do anything for myself, and that wasn't working. Wasn't working. Yeah, so let us know what you experience as either the default parent, or I'd love to hear from the non-default parents as well.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
your perspectives on it? We'll put up a post on Instagram so you can comment there. No judgment, there's no judgment here at all.
No, it's
With
just the way it is. Like, you just have
Yeah,
to, yeah,
we're
just
all
talking about
different.
how hard it is.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. See you later.